is Sunita Nimbang, and today I will be presenting on toxicants and pollutions, why it happens and who it affects. This is an issue that connects industry, government, corporations, and individuals, and it has both social and ecological consequences. By the end of this talk, I hope to show how pollution is not just an environmental issue but also a justice issue that impacts health, inequality, and our daily lives as well. As we all know, pollutions come from many sources like industries, agriculture, residential areas, healthcare, and energy. These toxicants contaminate the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the soil we depend on for food. The consequences show up in our health, in ecosystems, and even in how societies are structured. This problem is not just about dirty air or litter, it's about how entire systems prioritize growth and consumption over sustainability. When we think about pollutions, we have to ask, why does it keep happening despite everything we know? Social theories give us a lens to answer that question. The first is the treadmill of production, which explains how endless economic growth leads to cutting corners and dumping waste. Corporations and governments push growth at all costs, ignoring long-term damage. Second, environmental injustice shows that pollution is not equally distributed. Poor and marginalized communities are more likely to live near toxic waste sites, highways, and industrial plants. And finally, ecological modernization is the idea that technology can reduce pollutions, but only if it's applied consistently and honestly. Without strong regulations, even new green technologies often fail to live up to their promises. These theories help us to see that pollution is not just bad luck, it's built into how our social and economic systems operate. Governments have a major role in either preventing or allowing pollutions. Weak regulations and enforcement make it easy for industries to pollute. For example, some state governments ban hazardous waste while others allow it, creating inconsistency and loopholes. At the federal level, funding for environmental agencies is often low, which means inspections are rare and penalties are weak. Internationally, trade agreements often favor corporations instead of protecting the environment, which means toxic waste is sometimes dumped in poorer countries. In short, when governments prioritize economic growth over protection, they make pollution worse. Corporations are central players in pollution. Many times they put profit over safety. This shows up in negligent maintenance, ignore warning signs, and disasters that could have been prevented. For example, the Tyson Foods processing plants release over 300 million pounds of pollutants into waterways in just a few years. Other corporations engage in greenwashing, advertising themselves as environmentally friendly while continuing harmful practices behind the scenes. This corporate behavior shows how the treadmill of production prioritizes short-term profit over long-term sustainability. Individuals also contribute to pollution, though often in less visible ways. Our consumer culture demands fast fashion, frequent technology upgrades, and cheap goods, all of which drive industries to overproduce and pollute more. Our daily habits like using energy, driving cars, and creating waste also contribute. But it's important to remember that individuals often act within systems that encourage overconsumption. For example, many people need cars because of poor public transportation, which means that they rely on fossil fuels whether they want to or not. So, while individual actions matter, they are shaped by larger social and economic structure. The social consequences of pollutions are widespread. First, there are serious health effects: asthma, cancer, birth defects, and respiratory illness. Children and the elderly are often the most vulnerable. Second, there is inequality. Low income communities and people of color are more likely to live near highways, factories, or waste sites, meaning they face greater exposure. Third, pollution has economic consequences. Families face medical bills, communities lose productivity, and government spends billions on cleanup. Beyond that, pollution affects family life. Families may be forced to relocate if their water or soil becomes contaminated. It even affects mental health as climate anxiety and environmental stress rise in polluted communities. Pollution also harms ecosystem in powerful ways. In the air, greenhouse gases accelerate climate change, causing extreme weather, rising sea levels, and biodiversity loss. In water, toxic spill kill fish, coral reefs, and aquatic life, which then affects food chain. In soil, toxins reduce fertility, making it harder to grow crops and threatening food security. Over time, entire species are lost and ecosystems become imbalanced. When we damage ecosystems, we are also damaging ourselves because humans depends on this natural system to survive. This matter because pollution is not just about littering or bad habits, it is systematic. It comes from the way government regulate, the way corporations prioritize profit, and the way consumer demands drives production. Theories like treadmill of production and environmental injustice help us to see the patterns, the power structures, and the inequality behind pollution. Without these perspectives, it will be easy to blame individuals alone. But the bigger picture shows us this is a structural and global issue. So, what can be done? First, government need to enforce stronger regulations and close loopholes that allow pollution. Second, corporations must be held accountable for waste, emission, and false advertising. Third, individuals can reduce overconsumption, recycle more, and push for real sustainability by supporting responsible companies. Most importantly, we have to recognize pollution as a justice issue because it affects some communities more than others and it threatens the health of future generations. We all have a role to play in demanding change. So, at last, these are the academic and peer review reference I used for my research. Thank you.